There's just so much to love about E3. The hype, the reveals, the gameplay demonstrations, and of course, everybody's favorite guilty pleasure, the cringe. Every year, E3 brings with it a barrage of embarrassing moments, and though these moments have grown less frequent than they once were, there's still plenty of them to keep us all happy. As we prepare for 2019's E3 to roll around and the annual hype cycle around the event reaches its crescendo, let's take a look back at some of the worst, but in many ways the best, moments of E3 throughout the years. Of course, given how spoiled for choice any list like this would be, there will be a whole lot that we will not be mentioning, so please sound off with your favorite embarrassing moments in the comment section below. Sony's weird shuffling around, E3 2018. Nobody can deny that Sony's E3 show actually had a lot going for it on paper. There were some excellent gameplay demonstrations, such as The Last of Us Part 2 and Ghosts of Tsushima, and some exciting reveals, such as Resident Evil 2 and Nioh 2. But everything other than that was just weird. For some reason, they thought it would be a good idea to spend the first section of the show in a small hall, where they would show The Last of Us Part 2's gameplay, which would then be followed by everyone being asked to move to the main hall where the rest of the event was taking place. While all of this was happening, those who were streaming the whole thing had to watch some people on couches awkwardly talking to each other for a whole other 10 minutes.
Right.
And
wear the helmet.
We do have a lot more in store coming up in just a few minutes as the E3 showcase continues. But in the meantime, we also have some other updates for you while we wait during this short intermission. The people are about ready to go. This show's about to continue, about to move into the big event.
Yeah, it was great to see the countdown stuff, but I do think that there's like maybe one more thing we can sneak in there before we cut away to the showcase.
Yeah, let's squeeze it in. Let's squeeze it in.
in.
We are having the PlayStation E3 showcase kicking off in just a few more minutes. Welcome back. We're just a few minutes away from the E3 PlayStation showcase. I mean, when I say a few minutes, I mean we're really but for now,
I think it's almost time.
I think it's almost time. Should we get to it?
I think why keep people waiting? Let's get to it. We have so much more to cover.
The Flute Guy, E3 2018. Let's get one thing out of the way. Cornelius Boots, the infamous Flute Guy, actually gave a solid performance live on stage in front of thousands of people. No amount of memes and jokes will ever take away from that. So this is more about Sony than it is about him. Because, why? As if the 10-minute gap and the shuffling around we just spoke of weren't enough, for some reason Sony decided to preface their Ghost of Tsushima demonstration with a lengthy flute performance. Well, the God of War reveal back in 2016 with a live orchestra performance was perhaps the pinnacle of Sony's E3 history, so it's clear that they figured the now infamous flute performance was just following on from that. And yes, on paper it was, but really, it was just bizarre and completely out of place. Fallout 76 Lies, E3 2018. Fallout 76's poor launch and critical panning have been commonly known to one and all by now, but one rewatch of the Bethesda press event at last year's E3 would give you the impression that Todd Howard was talking about a completely different game. They were so confident, so cocky, so full of self-aware jokes. How could Fallout 76 be anything less than spectacular? Well, we know now. Most of it was blatant lies. Todd Howard famously brought up new technology that the game was using, which would make for better weather effects, better lighting, better rendering, shorter loading times, and yet all of these were things that Fallout 76 was panned for. Howard even made a joke about how Bethesda games had been prone to having bugs at times and promised that that would not be the case with Fallout 76, which turned out to be laughably inaccurate.
Fallout 76 is a prequel to all the other games, and it's our biggest one yet. It is 4 times the size of Fallout 4. We always start with the world, and this time it features all new rendering, lighting, and landscape technology. It allows us to have 16 times the detail and even view distant weather systems across the map. I read on the internet that our games have had a few bugs.
Rage 2 musical performance, E3 2018. To be fair, the musical performance from Andrew WK to kick off the Rage 2 presentation at Bethesda's 2018 press event was not a bad one. No, it was actually pretty good for what it was. It fit the tone of the game and the way it would go on to be marketed, and it did not sound half bad. But one look at the crowd would be enough to make you cringe right out of your skin. Awkward glimpses at the camera, deadpan expressions in stark contrast to the blaring music, and some dazed faces that were wondering just what the hell was going on. It was funny in a very, oh no, make it stop sort of way. Ubisoft's Dancing Panda, E3 2018. Ubisoft's love for weird antics at E3 is matched only by their love for Just Dance. At E3 2018, the two came together for the most bizarre 5 minutes in E3 history. A group of dancers led by an overly enthusiastic panda who transitioned from a recording to a live stage performance, while the crowd and those watching at home just blankly stared at everything going on and wondering what had gone wrong in their lives for them to end up here. Yeah, that's E3 alright. The awkward Jedi Fallen Order announcement, E3 2018. We were recently treated to a story trailer for Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, and soon will be treated to gameplay footage as well. But let's not forget about how the game was actually revealed, with Respawn Entertainment Vince Zampella sitting in the crowd at E3's press event last year, awkwardly saying the name of the game and nothing else. We make fun of companies for doing logo reveals, but as compared to the announcement of Fallen Order, even a logo reveal seems like a goldmine.
So, you want to just get right to it?
Sure. I mean, we're not ready to show all of our stuff yet.
I bet you the internet is going wild right now.
I hope so. So the Star Wars name is Jedi Fallen Order.
Woo! So Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order.
Yeah, so it kind of gives you some idea that you'll be playing a Jedi.
So does that mean I get to hold a lightsaber?
Xbox One's botched reveal, E3 2013. Microsoft started this generation off on the wrong foot. Their 2013 E3 press conference has become the stuff of legend by now. Don Matrick's attitude about the future of Xbox reeked of the kind of misplaced overconfidence that had proved to be Sony's hubris prior to the PS3's launch, and more on that in a bit. And nowhere was it as apparent as it was in their weird always-online direction, and their focus on Kinect, and more on that in a bit as well. To the exclusion of the one thing that we all actually cared about: games. Microsoft would very promptly do a complete 180 on the things that they were most maligned for at E3 2013, showing just how poorly thought out their strategy had been. Of course, Sony's tutorial on how game sharing worked with the PS4 was just the perfect way of rubbing salt in Microsoft's wounds.
I'm excited to announce that Xbox One will launch this November in 21 markets around the world at $499 in the US, and 499 euros in European markets, and 429 pounds in the UK.
Mr. Caffeine, E3 2011. Who could ever forget Mr. Caffeine and his famous doodly doodly doop? In all of their wisdom, Ubisoft decided to have this guy host their E3 2011 show, and all of his wisdom, he decided to make it a barrage of unfunny, bizarre jokes. Obviously, when it was time to go live, the jokes impressed no one, and uncomfortable ringing silence from the audience at every step of the way was probably an appropriate reaction.
Although, I wonder what this game would have looked like had we released it long ago. How much time 25 years is? Let's go back in time, shall we?
1 million troops, E3 2010. Years and years from now, when the history of E3 is being written, Konami's 2010 event will be in the very first chapter for all of the wrong reasons. There was just so much wrong with this show, and countless compilation videos and memes have explained it all in greater detail than we ever could. But the one single moment that stands out over everything else was 1 million troops. The pinnacle of cringe in a conference that was essentially a bedrock of cringe.
You can compete in the online leaderboards and battle with armies of the more than 1 million troops. 1 million troops.
Skyward Sword gameplay reveal, E3 2010. The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword was, owing to the fact that it was a Zelda game, hotly anticipated by millions and millions. And when the legendary Shigeru Miyamoto took the stage at Nintendo's E3 event in 2010, the entire industry held its breath collectively. Touting one-to-one motion controls in a typical Zelda experience, Skyward Sword had the potential to be something truly special. Of course, things didn't go how Miyamoto would have liked, because technical issues resulting in interference with the Wii's motion sensing resulted in the live gameplay demonstration completely getting botched. The motion controls were at the forefront of Nintendo's marketing for Skyward Sword at the time, so to see that very aspect failing so badly in the game's first live demonstration was far from ideal.
in front of you.
さあこれで剣の動きを見てください。横に、横に。
And you can see the sword following my movements one to one. Looks like we're having a little interference here.
誰かワイヤレスを使ってますか？
Somebody out there using wireless? Anybody?
Kinect reveal, E3 2009. Microsoft's misguided attempts at making the Kinect the next big thing have become well documented by now, but it all began in June 2009. Revealing it to the world as Project Natal at the time, trying to cash in on the motion gaming fad that the Wii had popularized, Microsoft went all in at their press event that year. And when we say all in, we mean all freaking in. The bulk of the conference was spent talking about the technology of the Kinect, showing ridiculous on-stage demos for the kind of games said technology would allow developers to create. Games, as it turned out, that none of us really wanted to play.
Next, check out our full body motion capture. So, as you can see, when I start making movements with my avatar, it instantly mimics me on screen. You ever wonder what the bottom of an avatar shoe looks like? Well, bam! There it is.
Wii Music, E3 2008. Wii's reputation as a whole can, in a way, be traced back to Nintendo's 2008 press event. The entire conference itself was extremely light on content, to the point where Nintendo were billing Wii Music, of all things, as one of their most noteworthy demonstrations. And what a demonstration it was. A guy flailing his arms in the air like a maniac, Nintendo execs standing on stage and blowing into their Wii remotes like they were trumpets, all to show off a game that would go on to be received horribly and wasn't even terribly exciting to begin with. Why Nintendo thought it would be a good idea to do any of this remains one of the universe's greatest mysteries to this day. Jamie Kennedy, E3 2007. Much like Mr. Caffeine at Ubisoft's 2011 event, but much, much worse was Jamie Kennedy, the host for Activision's E3 2007 press event. Much worse because his jokes were not only unfunny and greeted with uncomfortable silence, they were also completely obnoxious, with the comedian seeming to forget every few seconds that the point of the show was the show and not his forced comedy. Oh well, at least he makes the cringe compilations that much better. There's a silver lining to everything. Giant Enemy Crab, E3 2006. A top-tier E3 meme, one that we all look back on fondly. During their E3 2006 press event, a train wreck all around, even outside of this particular moment, Sony showed off a game by the name Genji: Days of the Blade. It was a game that, in their own words, was about famous battles which actually took place in ancient Japan. Emphasis on actually. That statement, of course, was followed by gameplay footage of a combat encounter against a giant enemy crab. Yes, the presence of giant enemy crabs in famous battles which actually took place in ancient Japan is well documented.
Genji 2 is an action game which is based on Japanese history. I'll switch over to Yoshitsune, hop on its stomach, and you attack its weak point for massive damage.
$599, E3 2006. Sony's 2006 E3 press conference is an absolute goldmine for a list such as this one. Shout out to Ridge Racer. But let's cap things off with the best of the best, or the worst of the worst. Sony spent the entire show talking up the PS3 and what it was capable of, and not necessarily doing a great job at it. Before, right at the end, Kazurai walked on stage and announced that the console would be sold at an astounding price of $599. You could literally hear the crowd gasp. The desperate struggles the PS3 faced in the early years of its life can likely all be traced back to this one moment.
In North America, the PlayStation 3 will be available at retail on November 17th, 2006. The 20GB PlayStation 3 will retail for $499 US and 549 Canadian dollars. And the 60GB PlayStation 3 for $599 US, $659 Canadian.
And that about does it for this video. If you enjoyed what you watched and want to see more from Gaming Bolt, you can always hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell icon next to it. That way you will never miss any of our videos.